Please join me in welcoming Annette Taddeo.
Good morning. Good morning. Buenos dias. Thank you so much for that introduction. And he just told you a little bit about myself. 2010, many of us stayed home. Many of us in that election in 2010 stayed home. And by us, I mean Democrats. You guys know that. We really didn't go out to vote in the numbers that we usually do. And we historically don't do that during elections of the midterm. And some people call them off-year elections. I don't think there's ever an off election. All elections are important. And so in 2010, I was involved in the campaign, and I tried to help as well for the governor's race for Alex Sink, and learned a lot about what was done and not done. But I'll tell you when I learned the most was in 2012, when I was a media surrogate for the Obama campaign, both in English and Spanish. And thank you to the ones that mentioned that they've seen me on the Ed Show. I'm glad that you watch MSNBC. I hate it. We're now going to all these hotels all over because I'm traveling the whole state. And so many hotels don't play in MSNBC. So I'm just like, okay, I'll watch Fox and try to educate myself as to what they're saying. Be prepared for the debates. But in 2008, I was so happy to see such an effort of the ground game, such an effort of the importance of the Democratic Party getting out the vote. And I was very involved. I also, besides being a media surrogate, I also was a volunteer. And I took a leave of absence from my job to concentrate on making sure Barack Obama got reelected. So besides doing the media stuff, I also put together neighborhood team meetings, parties at my house with people that weren't as involved, got them involved. Then we went door knocking, made phone calls. So I've done all that. And yes, I've had the door slammed in my face. I know what that's like. But you know, it just made me realize about how important it is to do the ground and to really knock on the doors, make the calls, and how we, neighbor to neighbor, are able to truly convince people to go out and vote. So I'm here to tell you, as a Democratic club, I hope you're doing that. I hope you're encouraging others, and I know you're in the minority in this area, but the point is, I hope that you are doing that, speaking to your neighbors, to people at the store, and talking about the importance of going out and voting. Now we come to this year, 2014, and yes, I've been chair, no longer, of the Miami-Dade Democratic Party. We've revitalized the Democratic Party in Miami-Dade. We now have, over 200,000 more Democrats in Miami-Dade County than Republicans. In addition to that, we not only overwhelmingly won the Hispanic vote in Miami-Dade County, but we got 49–50% of the vote, of the Cuban-American vote. We have really moved the needle with our message and the Democratic Party and the importance of the middle class and growing from, out from the middle class up, not from the top down. And it's just amazing to me how it has really revitalized Miami-Dade County as an area. So I guess some people were paying attention. And I got to know Charlie, I will tell you, long before any of this. I was also very involved in the Chambers of Commerce as a businesswoman. And I went to visit him when he was governor, because I was the chair of the Coalition of Chambers of Miami-Dade County. 22 chambers named me as their chair. And I would go up and talk about small business issues and our needs for small businesses. And he was always wonderful. But I will tell you, I think throughout his tenure, a lot of us were wondering, why is he a Republican? And I think he didn't realize he was a Democrat at the time. But he was, because every time when there was a major decision to be made, he made the right decision. You know, obviously, the biggest one that all of us remember is 2008, the lines for voting. Maybe not here, but certainly where we were. It was just horrible lines, people standing for a long, long time, just trying to vote, because we were so excited. We were pumped up and excited to elect Barack Obama in 2008. And we did it, but I'll tell you what, he helped, because we really needed those voting hours extended. And the Republican Party told him, don't, you cannot do that. And flat out said, you cannot do that. And he said, yes, I can use my pen. And he used his pen, and he extended the hours. And I remember as Democrats, we were rejoicing, we were so excited because he did that, and I'm so glad he did. We won in 2008, and boy, we won in 2012 again, even though they did try to suppress the vote. So we have quite a contrast now with a Governor Scott, who is trying to suppress the vote, change the laws, clean the voting rolls, mainly Hispanic surnames that he tried to clean out, and it turns out that there was no issue with anyone trying to vote that wasn't eligible to vote. We did find one person, I know in Miami-Dade County, and he turned out to be a schizophrenic. So, I mean, you know, it was like, so we don't have a problem with people voting illegally, and but they certainly thought they did, and they tried to suppress the vote every chance they get. So there are other things that Charlie did that obviously made us very happy. And I don't want to keep you here forever because I do want to open it for questions, but I want to talk about some of those things. So many issues where he just did the right thing. The environment, that was a huge part of his administration. From the minute he got in, he wanted to take us back from the, move us forward from the dark ages into believing in new energy and investing in solar and talking about how we can get away from these, what currently is a monopoly of our electric companies, and really try to look out for the consumer, like you guys. And he fought. And they're not happy that he's trying to get back in the governor's mansion because they know that he'll stand up for the people and not the special interests. What we have right now in Tallahassee is the special interests and all those people at the top, the big corporations, they have a seat at the table. We need regular people to have a seat at the table. And I said, without hesitation, because together we can make a difference. And I really believe that. And by the way, when I say together we can make a difference, I don't just mean Charlie or Annette. I mean all of us. Because that's truly what we're here to do. We are here to unite all of us, regardless of party. I know we're at a Democratic event, but we really need to bring this state into the new century with new technologies, new thinking, and certainly caring for the people, and more importantly, our children and our children's future, because that's going to depend, you know, how the state goes on from here on out. So I want to thank you for inviting me here, but more importantly, I want to thank you for willing to work together towards a better Florida, because together we can make a difference. Thank you. I'll take questions.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you. May I call you Annette?
Please, yes.
And you mentioned about the Village's Democrats being in the minority. I will tell you that, like in Miami-Dade, we're moving the needle the other way as well.
Awesome.
We now have, I think, maybe someone else can correct me, well over 30,000 Democrats living in the villages. We have over 1,000 members in the club.
I know.
So when you go back and talk to Charlie, you tell him we are going to expect him, if he gets elected, to be here as well.
Yes.
So
He will get elected.
if he gets the nomination.
Okay.
Okay. All right, at this time we'll entertain questions, and remember, we're asking for questions. Larry.
Yes, would you please ask Charlie to debate Man Ridge?
Thank you for that comment. I will tell you, I think very highly of Nan Rich, and I told you about my race for Congress in 2008. I was not one of those races that people believed in. And so it was really hard to get my opponent to debate. So I understand what you're saying more than you think. But I want you to know that because I understood what I needed to do, I did certain things, which was raise a lot of money for people to understand that this was a viable race. And I also, by raising money, putting commercials on, and doing all the things I needed to do, I was able to move the polls. And at that point, because she wouldn't debate me either, she had to debate me because it was a real race. So I just want to make sure that we understand the importance of making sure that you do all the things that you need to do to raise it to the level where it awards a debate. So that's my personal experience.
Over here. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Would you please state what Charlie Crist's position on women's rights and the rights to do what they want to do with their own bodies?
Well, absolutely. And obviously, he has his personal views as a religious man. However, he has proven it also when it came to him making the decision. And that was that a bill, when he was governor, a bill was passed where they were going to ask us, ask a woman to get an ultrasound should before she were to get any kind of termination. And he vetoed it. And I will add that not only were they requiring an ultrasound, but they weren't even going to pay for the ultrasound. So, you know, typical, right? As with all these bills, no exception for rape or incest. I mean, there's just, they are so extreme. But he did the right thing. He proved it to us. And I have had that conversation with him, obviously. It's a very important issue as a woman. And I can tell you, he believes that the government should stay out of the decisions of a woman and her doctor.
Annette, I wanted to ask whether Charlie's position, as well as yourself, would be one of the first things you would do in office would be to expand Medicaid.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that, because I failed to mention it, and I will tell you absolutely yes. And if we need to call a special session, that's what we'll do. He has said this already, so I'm not speaking out of turn. He talks about Medicaid expansion all the time. It is just unbelievable that you would turn down $51 billion of our own money, because we send it up to the government. It's our money, but what's worse, what's really just cruel, is that there are approximately 1 million people without insurance because of that. And they just want to, again, we have a Tea Party governor who just wants to appease the Tea Party and, and does these things. He also turned down the bullet train. And that's another one that we are just so upset about. It would have created jobs. It would have been wonderful for a state. Certainly tell me about it, and as I'm writing up and down, I would have loved it. But I have to tell you, this idea that taking our money back that we send up to Washington, it's a bad thing. Since when? That's insane. That just makes no sense. And it turns out that California got our money. So, and then there's this slow train being, proposed and built, and it turns out that his chief of staff has connections, and there's all kinds of dealings and bad things going on, and we're actually going to be paying for the slow train instead of the fast train. So this is the kind of stuff that just makes me so angry, because you really need somebody that's going to do the right thing and just be smart. There's another one, science. He doesn't, now he says, okay, I'll take 30 minutes and meet with scientists, because he's noticing that this is becoming a problem, him not believing in science. But Charlie said, you know, I don't have to be a scientist. I can meet with scientists and use my brain to listen to them. And that's really all voters should ask for. And I'll tell you, I wonder if Rick Scott, when he goes to the doctor, he said, and they give him a medicine for an illness, he says, you know what, doctor? I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to listen to you. That's what he's saying to scientists.
It's interesting, too, this bullet train would have created thousands and thousands of jobs. And media is getting on wiser and wiser with the governor. If they ask him a question, he has one pat answer. I'm about creating jobs. And it sort of doesn't make sense, does it? Yes.
Could you explain your ticket's position on gun control, gun safety, and stand your ground laws?
Good question, and I will tell you that, well, as a good Jewish household, we just don't like guns. However, obviously, we have a right, but the problem is when you have the NRA and running, you know, the bills in the House, that's where we have a problem. And we go to extremes. We think we're fixing things, and we are not. Stand your ground needs to be fixed. It is very obvious. And I personally, I'm very upset about what happened. You know, the kid that died or was killed was from Miami, went to one of our high schools. And I will tell you, I say this often, I went to one of the events where the mother had started this foundation for Trayvon Martin. And I was the only non-African American there. And I think we have a problem. We have a problem when we see those kids in that neighborhood and treat people like, you know, oh, that's one of those kids that died. I think they are all our kids. And I don't care which neighborhood you're in. But yes, back to the question, we have discussed the need to fix many of the laws, and without taking away rights, but this has gone too far, and it seems like we're going in the Texas way. But while I'm speaking about Texas, let me tell you about this Texas trip to the ranch to go hunting. And that's what Rick Scott is doing, and his buddies in the legislature, taking these trips, paid for by none other than U.S. Sugar. And then they come back, and the person running this event and running this ranch and paying for all these things from U.S. Sugar gets appointed to the body, the board, that actually controls what happens to our rivers and our waters and the whole cleanup. When Charlie was governor, he actually fought for the restoration of the Everglades, bought a bunch of land back, if you remember. So there are reasons why a lot of these special interests, whether it's sugar or the utilities or the insurance industry, they don't want him back, because they know that even when he was a Republican, he fought them and he did the right thing for the people. And as a Democrat, we're going to definitely do the right thing.
He better be careful at these hunting trips if Dick Cheney is there. One last question.
Scott is proposing a drastic diversion of public funds to private schools. And I know in the past, Charlie Crist also supported vouchers for schools and private and religious schools. You have a child in public school. What is his position this year on this issue?
We are very much for public education, and education needs to be funded. The issue with charter schools is that it has become, although they call themselves a non-for-profit, it has become a for-profit business, and they're making money off of our kids. So it started with a good idea, give people options, all this stuff. We actually have some charter schools in our community in Miami-Dade County that are being run by the school board. So not all charter schools are part of these corporate greed, as I call them. But the biggest issue, I think, with the differences is that they're getting public funding, making a ton of money off of this venture with our kids' education, and they're not being measured the same. They do not have to go through the same very rigid measures that public school teachers and public schools have to go through. It is absolutely not okay. Not okay. I don't think that my daughter's education is any less than anybody else's education. But if you're going to use public funds, you need to play by the same rules.
Thank you, Annette, for coming. And on behalf of the club, I'd like to award or give you a Village's Democratic shirt.
Thank you, Bob.
So the next time you return, you can be dressed like the rest of us.
Comfortable.
Remember, August 26th is primary election day. How many vote by mail? Raise your hand. All right. Now, as I said earlier, if you're still undecided on who to vote for, if you go to our website, you will get information on all of the Democratic candidates, the judicial candidates. So after August 26th, we're going to have a nominee for governor and lieutenant governor and attorney general, and we're going to come together and we're going to support them as well as continue to support David Kohler. In order to do that, we need people to sign up for not only the house party that we have planned, but other house parties. We need you to see Julian back there and the Sumter Executive Committee to make sure that we have people who are on the squares, letting people in the villages know about the strength of our candidates. And so we, as they did in Miami-Dade County, we want to move the needle here. And in order to do that, we need bodies on the ground and at the tables and in the squares and inviting people to our homes to have that happen. So again, thank you for, yes?
One final question. Could you comment on the immigration issue?
Okay, good.
Happy to. We're running against a guy that actually said that he wanted us to have Arizona-style immigration law. So it's obviously, as I started at the beginning, it's a personal issue for me, but it should be an issue for everyone. We really need a comprehensive immigration system. And Washington, unfortunately, they're too busy trying to sue the president, and they don't have any time to take care of immigration reform, which we desperately need, and the votes are there. They won't even bring it up to a vote. So here in Florida, we are dealing with a situation of the children that are coming right here to Florida. And the governor and I believe that we need to have an open heart and look at this with the sensibility that it needs to be looked at. Governor Scott and his administration just last week put out a letter to the media about asking about the diseases that these kids could be bringing. Now, I want you to know, these kids, when they're caught at the border, they go through an HHS medical exam and all these things before they get moved into our state or any other state. But I just want to talk about the inhumanity of that and the playing with children's lives who have been through so much, and just to fearmonger and to try to entice the extremist Tea Party-like folks out to vote. And so the hatred and the signs that I've seen people holding, you know, when they see some of these kids are at the areas where they're bringing the kids, it's just, again, it's ugliness, it's nastiness, and we as Americans are so much better than that. And we can do so much better. And I am again going to talk about an experience in Miami-Dade County. Many years ago, we had so many kids being sent by their parents from Cuba. They have a name. They're called the Pedro Pan kids. And it's a very famous program that we did receiving these kids. And these kids are now today's Miami leaders, Miami business elite. What happens when you go through rough times in your life as a kid? It makes you more determined to succeed. It makes you that much stronger. So we shouldn't see this as a burden, but as what could come of this. We've done it before, we can do it again. Thank you.
Thank you again, Annette. I indicated the tables. I didn't mention that we have a table with Nan Rich's materials and things, and we have Governor Chris people here who can answer questions, as well as if you want to buy tickets for the potluck. Again, thank you very much for coming. We'll see you in September.